What's up, guys? Just got home from the movie theater from seeing Christopher Nolan's newest film, The Odyssey, and my goodness, it was exactly what we thought it would be. It was incredible. The cinematography, top-notch. Hoyt van Hoytema, as always, just delivering as he always does. Ludwig van Göransson doing his damn thing. Christopher Nolan directing his ass off. And the cast, the cast brought the good stuff. Hey, what's going on, folks? Chris from Cinema Hooked, and I'm here today with a new review. I'm going to be keeping this first part spoiler-free, mostly just talking about the cast, the crew that put this thing together, how it looked, my experience in the theater, me being unfamiliar with Homer's Odyssey. I'm unfamiliar with the poem by Homer, so I knew so little about this. So on the one hand, hey, I have no expectations because I'm unfamiliar with the story, so I can't compare it to the actual source material. And on the other hand, I know it's Christopher Nolan, Ludwig van Göransson, it's Hoyt van Hoytema, Robert Pattinson, Tom Holland, Matt Damon, like stacked cast. So it was a win-win for me. No expectations, so I can't get let down. Amazing group of people bringing this thing to life. I know I've got a buddy of mine, big film buff, and he was just talking about how hard of a story this is going to be to tell because Christopher Nolan was taking on a huge task. I didn't understand, I get that you're saying that. I don't understand in what way he's taking on this task, but there was a lot in this movie, and at no point was I feeling like anything was crammed or that it didn't make sense. I felt like they told a pretty fluid story. Obviously, with it being Nolan, there was no time travel or anything crazy like that, but there was, everything's kind of out of place. You got, Odysseus' story is pretty much going back to when he left for war, and his story is progressing towards the end, and that's intersected with, his son Telemachus' story and Penelope's story. It's intersected in between that. So both stories are going forward, but they're both taking place at very different times. So it's not doing a crazy, oh, this happened and that happened and there's a twist and then, time travel, nothing weird like that. But it was handled really well the way they told the story. And I felt like I got everything I needed to get. It wasn't overly complicated. And the visuals in this movie, whether it was the Cyclops, the giants, and pardon me when I say things, if they're incorrect. Like I said, I'm unfamiliar with the original story, but when they go to this one island, I think they were giants. Maybe they call them something else, but there was even this monster. We're non-spoilers right now. We're non-spoilers right now. Okay, so I want to wrap up non-spoilers because I want to talk about details of the movie with you guys. Cinematography was beautiful. Like I mentioned before, Hoyt van Hoytema, he's done the last handful of Christopher Nolan films, and all of them have been just incredibly well shot. Incredible talent there. Ludwig van Göransson's score, there were so many parts of the movie where it was standing out, and I was like, this had to be Ludwig. There was one moment in the second act, there's a certain sound, which I know this sounds weird, but there was a certain noise instrument that was being used. I was like, this has to be Ludwig. It just had this feel and vibe to it. I was like, no, this isn't Hans Zimmer. It could be, but no, this doesn't sound like Hans Zimmer. So the score was amazing. And Christopher Nolan tackling this project and having this huge ensemble cast and all these different filming locations, is incredible. It was incredible. So I'm not rating it yet. You'll have to get towards the end of the review to get my actual rating of this, but it was amazing. Go see it. Go see it. And to the people out there who were bagging on this movie because of the cast, especially the people who were knocking Elliot Page, get a life. I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to get vulgar on this channel. I'm going to keep it very civil and mature, but get a life. I can't believe there was that much uproar about Elliot Page being in this movie. And I will say this about the Elliot Page casting. It's the brother, correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I took it in the movie, because there's a lot of names in this movie, but it was Elliot Page played Robert Pattinson's character's brother. And my goodness, passable as brothers in the movie. And also, I'll add this, I hated having to root against my boy Pattinson, because that's my Batman there. And him picking on Spider-Man like that, I really hated that. So Antinous, I'd give him 2 middle fingers right now if I wasn't trying to keep it, appropriate on this channel. But that's it for spoiler-free talk. I want to jump full spoilers. I want to talk specifics about the film. So if you want to know if you should go see it, yes, get your butt to the theater, go see it. Awesome movie. Christopher Nolan, doing the damn thing. Let's talk spoilers. All right, we're in spoiler talk now. In this one, I'm not necessarily cutting through the whole movie like, hey, beat per beat per beat per beat per beat. I'm going to talk about whatever I want to talk about in whatever order I want to talk about, because this is a big, long film. There's a lot to talk about, a lot to unpack, but I want to talk about how this movie was kind of slow. It definitely does have some action sequences, but at no point was I feeling like, God, this movie's so long. So I think it clocked in at like 2 hours and 52 minutes, so nearly 3 hours. It didn't feel like it. At no point was I like, oh my God, is this thing almost over? Like, I'm ready to go home. I just want to do my review and get this over with. I did, however, at one point think, do I even want to review this movie? Like, because I wasn't like, oh my God. But that third act just brings everything home, and I can talk spoilers now, but basically when Odysseus gets back to Ithaca, I was like, oh my God. And it seems like that's going to be like the very end, but that last little bit, like once he shows back up home, like I felt like that part alone in the movie was probably like 45 minutes long, and it was so damn great. I was like, hell yeah, I'm reviewing this movie. Like, hell yeah. They just brought it home and it all tied together. The stuff with the dog. Okay. There were 2 moments in this movie that almost made me cry. The first one was when he got back to Ithaca. He's going back for the feast. The dog's laying there, and they're telling us the whole time, like, sorry, whew, it just hit me. Seriously, because I got really emotional in the movie theater. But they were saying the whole time, the dog's just waiting to see his master come home before he can finally rest. And Odysseus sees the dog, and you see his little tail wagging. And he goes down, gives him a little love, and Telemachus sees the dog's tail wag, and that's when he like clocks it, like, oh my, you're my father. And I feel so silly right now. It's one of those like happy cries. I'm a big dog person. If you're new to this channel, let me just tell you that I'm a big dog lover. I have a couple dogs of my own, Ahsoka and Sabine. So the stuff with the dog, that was really heartwarming. And then the dog passes away. It got to greet his master coming home. That was awesome. There was another moment that made me emotional in this, but I don't want to get there yet. I'll wait to get there. But the whole stuff with Odysseus coming home, like, it was so good. It was done so well. The storytelling and him talking with his wife, Penelope, played tremendously by Anne Hathaway, by the way, she was great in this powerful performance when she's going off on Telemachus, when he's talking about like, make me king, like let me be the ruler. Like she was bringing it. She was bringing it the way Zendaya's bringing it in the Dune Part 3 trailer. Like when she's yelling at Paul at the beginning of that trailer, like just bringing that raw emotion. And it's just so visceral and believable. I felt that. So great performance by Anne, but her and Odysseus's exchange, him telling the story about Odysseus and like kind of the fall of civilization and Zeus's like law and how and I clocked this about halfway through the movie. Telemachus and someone else were talking about the people, and I think it might have been with his mother Penelope, talking about, yeah, it was with Penelope when they're overlooking the ocean, talking about the people who come from the sea, the people invading, and you know, Zeus's law is gone and no one respects it anymore. They were talking about Odysseus, like they were those people going from land to land, and I thought that was a really interesting way to have that all blend together at the end. I thought they did a really good job with that. But I know I'm just talking about the end of the film because it was so awesome. But I'm not going to talk about the best parts of the end of the film. Let's kind of go back in time. I liked the telling of the sacking of Troy, the Trojan horse. visually seeing that, the way they pulled it off, I loved seeing all the flashbacks. And there was the one shot where it shows Odysseus like kind of fall back on those stairs and he's like looking up. And it really tied it back to the end of the movie when he's talking about kind of civilization crumbling and falling, and him clocking that moment is like, this is the moment, like I knew we'd done something wrong. We spit in the face of the gods. And I knew he must have been looking at the Trojan horse. And finally, at the very end of the movie, after they shown the shot of him sitting on those stairs and looking up with the flames ablaze and the orange, radiating off of his face, he's looking at the Trojan horse. And I thought that was, it was just beautiful storytelling by Christopher Nolan, which I'm not surprised by at all. Nobody's going to be surprised by that. It's funny how we go into a movie like that and we're not even really amazed when we see it. We're just like, okay, he did it again. He did it again. Let's talk about the suitors that were trying to win Penelope's hand in marriage so that they could be the ruler of Ithaca. Were they there for 7 years trying to win her hand? I don't know if they explicitly said, but we do find out later in the film when we find out how much time has gone by since he lost his crew of men when he's with Charlize Theron's character. Were the suitors there for 7 years? Because that's a long time to just be asking for a woman's hand in marriage. And Telemachus obviously hating all these men trying to marry his mom, who he doesn't even really know his dad at all, because he was how old was he? I mean, he must have been extremely young because he was outside of Troy for 10 years. Then he's on his, Odyssey. And then he was on that one beach place with Charlize Theron's character for 7 years. It's he must have been a baby when he went off to war. But the suitors, Robert Pattinson, I knew I wasn't going to like him in this film because from the trailers, it's clear, hey, you're not going to like this character. But I didn't realize I was going to freaking hate this character. He was just I'm trying not to swear. He was such a punk, and I hated that. And just the more the film went on, the more you're like, I hate this guy more. I hate this guy even more. I hate this guy even more. And at the very end, going back to the ending sequence, but not talking about the whole thing, but the big fight, the big Odysseus reveal, which, the thing with the bow, we'll talk about that later, but the thing with the bow, that was amazing. But the whole fight's going on and he's just hiding behind this pillar. He's like, the spears. Oh, get the dagger. Oh, over there. And he's just hiding like a little punk. God, it's hard not to swear when I'm talking about that character because he was the worst. I hated his character. I hated it. But there wasn't a whole lot to his character other than the fact that he really made you hate the character. So, again, another person of this amazing cast doing their job. This is not supposed to be a character you like. You need to make people hate you. And boy, did he. And Mia Goth's character, not in it a lot, but the little bit that she had, you're all, I hate you too. You're the worst. Let's talk Tom Holland's Telemachus a little bit. I thought he was really good in this role. Obviously, he wants to be the big man. He wants to defend his father's honor. He wants to defend his mother. He wants to be the ruler, not because he's a greedy thing or he's power hungry or anything like that. He just believes that it's rightfully his. He needs to take the place. He doesn't want the mom to remarry because it's dad's alive, father's alive. He's coming back. And I like that. He's like, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to go find it. I'm going to find out what happened to dad. And, sadly, he doesn't find him. But events played out incredibly. I like that he's like, I'm going on this journey and I'm leaving. And he goes on a journey to Troy. And like I said before, I know most people had to read that book in school. I'm 41. Maybe I just don't have a good memory, but I feel like I do. And I don't remember having to read that book. We did study Greek mythology, but I don't remember that required reading. But I gotta say, we didn't get much of him, but Agamemnon, that armor, that getup was so sick looking. Like the helmet, how much of his face was being concealed. It just made him this dark, gloomy, mysterious character and just had presence. When the gates of Troy finally opened and he's just standing there and all the men run past him, The freaking aura of this guy in that suit of armor was, it looked so awesome. And then when we see him, in Hades, that was cool. And he's having the conversation. He talks about his homecoming, which we get that story. That was cool. And I like that he gives him like advice, like, hey, like, don't do what I did. You need to go. It was nice to see him giving advice, because everyone else, Elliot Page's character, how could you do that? How could you lie to me? And him telling, I was right there with you. And gosh, I just wish that we could see a scene when Antinous sees Sinan, I believe it was, just to see how that brother was such a dirtbag. Elliot Page was really good in this. The limited bit that he's in, it was good. And I still can't believe the people on the internet that were so up in arms. Elliot Page can't be in this. Shut up. Oh, there's gonna be, what am I talking about? There's already been, and will continue to be, those grifter YouTube pages that will bash on this movie. We'll see some thumbnails created with AI that shows Elliot Page with some goofy face, Christopher Nolan with like bug eyes, and the caption's gonna read, "Is this Nolan's worst film ever?" Do me a favor, do society a favor. Don't click on it. Don't click on it. Don't give them the views. Don't give them the money, guys. Just ignore them. Back to Telemachus. Goes to Troy and is greeted by the people at the gates, and like, hey, like, the king greets everyone. I think they call him the king. And it's Agamemnon's brother, Menelaus, and pretty much tells him the events of Troy, like when they took it over, what happened. Tells him about the horse, tells him what it was like being inside the Trojan horse, and that perspective, because he's heard the tale, he's never heard it firsthand from a soldier who was actually in the horse. So that was really interesting. He also talks about basically the murder of his brother Agamemnon, which was Helen of Troy, Lupita Nyong'o's character. That was a vicious scene. And I hated that they were just never showing Agamemnon's face, so I didn't know who the actor was playing him, but it was someone who was also in Oppenheimer. I'm blanking on the actor's name right now, but the little bit that we get, it was really good. And like I said, the stuff when Agamemnon was in Hades, so good. But Telemachus' character, eventually Robert Pattinson sends his goons, I think one of the guys' names was Iris, which he had like, I don't know, that must have been like a cruel nickname. He had a screwed up ear, like it was all big, kind of had that like cauliflower ear like the UFC fighters have, and sends him basically on an assassination mission. Like, yo, you need to kill him. Like, he's on this, he's headed to Plato? I can't remember where he was, but a temple, he's going to be there. And Odysseus shows up, and Ithaca finds out about this, and he's like, I got to go try and help him. And that scene was cool. The guy just holding his, sword out like this, and Odysseus just like hits his elbow and just makes the guy stab himself like through the throat. Like, that was okay, cool. Odysseus is Jason Bourne now. This is awesome. That was a really cool scene. So it was cool seeing that reunion, even though Telemachus doesn't realize that it's his father, Odysseus. The action was great. And I gotta say, Tom Holland's get up as Telemachus, the armor and like that skirt, the Roman look, like so cool. We didn't get to see him in a Trojan helmet, which would have been cool, but those helmets were so cool. And Agamemnon's, again, his get up looked so great. But I really liked Tom Holland in this. I liked that he was trying to defend his family's honor, defending his father. He believed he was still alive. He went on a very, very dangerous mission against his mother's orders to go try and find the father. And I liked the story. I believe she told him the story about her giving him the pin of Athena. And you'll hold this with you. You'll keep this with you always. Anyone that claims to know a story, claims to have seen you, claims to know you, claims to know where you are, they'll know about this. And if they don't know about this, I know that they're lying. Because earlier in the film, Telemachus mentions to someone like, oh, don't make up a story about how you knew my father because she'll know if you're lying. And I was like, how would she know? It's just like, oh, I love my husband so much. I know everything about him. But it's like, oh, that's cool that she anticipated that this war is going to be long. It might be a long time before I see you again. I may not see you again. I don't know what's going to happen. But if anyone has stories, rumors, or anything about your existence, where you are, what's happened to you, if they don't know about this, I know that they're lying. I thought that was really cool, the way they tied that all in at the end. And then that conversation between Odysseus and Penelope at the end, and he shows her the pin. So this was the other part that made me emotional. That whole exchange made me emotional. But let's talk about some of the actual Odyssey itself, like that journey, the giants, the Cyclops. Like, let's talk about that stuff, because that stuff was awesome. The stuff with the Cyclops, that was terrifying. The way he just grabs it and he just bites off the head, spits out body parts. And it's like, it looked so real. Obviously it's fake. Obviously. But it looked so real. Totally believable. Like the VFX department, whatever green screens, mocap, whatever they were doing, it looked so good and so believable. Like they really made them seem like ants. And then when they hear the Cyclops like speaking, which before I even talk about it speaking, when they burnt the eye, the noises, I mean, the theater speakers were just trembling. Like that was the most disturbing sound, and it just kept going. It was so disturbing, so disturbing. I kind of felt bad for the Cyclops. Like, dude, you're in his home. Like, I know that they want to get out, but it's like, why? Gosh, And then finding out that he could talk and stuff like that, and they were saying it's Poseidon's son, which I don't think that's true, is it? Right? I don't. Again, I'm not the Greek mythology guy, but them being superstitious about, oh, that was Poseidon's son, and now we're cursed, and now the sea hates us, and sure enough, they go over through the ocean and stuff, and times are hard. And then we finally see land again, only this time they come across what appears to be a child. And instead of speaking back, the child like laughs. And then they try and play like, hey, we're hungry, we need food. And the kid just screams in the most high-pitched sound, just runs away. I tried to avoid the trailers and teasers for this movie, so a lot of this was like fresh new stuff, but those giants that came out and like the armor, just, again, it looked so real. And I really can't wait for like the Blu-ray to come out, the Steelbook, the 4K Steelbook. I'm gonna keep an eye out for that one, because that's gonna sell out. I want to see how that was filmed, getting those proportions, how they filmed that to look the way it did. 'Cause it looked so real. And I feel like with Nolan, there had to be a very practical way of shooting that, whether it was shooting 2 different takes, enlarging people, or like, I just don't know. I don't know how they did that, but I'm really curious to find out. So I'm sure there's going to be some cool behind the scenes stuff. And like, a director's commentary on this film, that would go hard. I'm not huge on watching director commentaries, but I think I would do it for this one, because there's a lot of stuff that I would just love to hear Christopher Nolan geeking out about how he shot something that day. And well, here's how we did this. Oh, let me tell you a funny anecdote about Matt Damon on that day, because this happened. I would love to hear that. And then, so they leave that island. Some of them leave that island. Oh, and it makes me want to read the book, because they were in that like forest, and the trees were like moving on the ground, and they're like creating these like cages, and then they're just like stabbing them through the branches. I was like, dude, like, what is this forest? So some of them got out, and then they're like, all right, we're just gonna follow the coast. Like, they can't be everywhere we follow the coast, because we can't afford to go back out at sea without any kind of food or anything like that. And that's when we're gonna talk about one of the most disturbing, no, you know what, not even one of them. We're gonna talk about the most disturbing part of this film. But before I talk about the most disturbing part of the film, if you made it this far in the video, thanks for, sticking around. But make sure you hit that subscribe button down there, hit that little like button like the sign there says. Really helps a small channel like mine grow. I just love talking movies, and I hope to geek out with you guys in the comments, because this movie had so much. And hey, maybe you can teach me more if you know a little bit more about Greek mythology than I do. But the most disturbing part of this film, Odysseus spots smoke coming from a structure, so they land. And this was the part, it was kind of like a mutiny, but he's like, land, he's all excited, land, land. But then he sees his like soldiers like just kind of like whispering amongst themselves. He's like, I thought, okay, what's going on? They get on the beach, and they're like, oh, we think it would be best like if you stayed. And it's like, is this a mutiny? They're like, well, we're hoping it's not. Like, we're hoping you'll just stay. But they go up. He's like, well, I'm gonna hunt for dinner tonight. So Odysseus goes off on his own. The men go up to that structure that had the smoke coming from it. There's a woman there, Circe, and I had no clue what was about to happen. And this is when not reading the book and being familiar with this particular Greek mythology is really, really awesome, because I did not see that coming. A witch. And then the way they were eating that food, it was like body horror. It was gross. It was disgusting. When she leaves the guy's face and just reaches down his throat, and she's like molding their faces. And it made sense now why they were walking up to the hut. We saw a panther, a lion, a tiger, and maybe a cheetah or a leopard, maybe. I'm like, why aren't they attacking them? Come to find out, they were once men, and the witch turned them into animals. And that was a cool reveal when Odysseus... God, things flooding into my mind right now. Earlier in the film, we get when he's hunting, he plucks the bow to give his prey a chance to get away. It makes it more of a hunt, makes it more fair. But he does it with the deer, and I'm like, dude, just shoot the damn deer. You're hungry, you're starving, your men are starving. But we'll talk about the pluck of the bow later. Sees that it turned into a man, and that's when he goes up to the hut. And then really cool how, I don't know how he clocked that his man's ring was in that bowl, but basically gets the witch to undo what she'd done. So none of the men died from that, but my God, how disturbing was that? It was so gross. It was so gross. But they leave that place. The witch gives him advice about how to find the way home, going west. First, they had to go north, and they're going to make a blood sacrifice, and they can talk to the dead, and he can commune with them. That scene was very cool. That was very cool. The way they were talking with the dead, I thought that was filmed really cool. They go back out to sea. The storm is terrible. They go, and I believe Hades was before the Sunfire God land, and basically, you can't eat the cattle. You can't eat them. Otherwise, you're all doomed if you do. Don't do it. And they last a while. The winds are going. Sure enough, they finally cave. They eat the cattle. They're cursed now. They go back out to sea anyways because the wind stopped now. Oh, how convenient. They go back out to sea. The worst storm. Boat cracks in half, and that's kind of catches us up with the 7-year period where he's finally going to get his memory back because he stopped eating the lotus flower. He remembers his family now, remembers Ithaca. He knows where he's got to be. He wants to see Penelope. He wants to meet his son as an adult, as Telemachus, and him getting back to Ithaca. It's like, finally. And I know I already talked about when he goes to save Telemachus at the temple, but showing up at that feast, to which Robert Pattinson and that other actor, which I don't know what I know him from, but I definitely know him from something, but I hated both of those characters. They were both suitors trying to get Penelope's hand in marriage, but how much of a dick they were being to Odysseus. And just, if they follow Zeus's law and treated him like he's a god, and then when he's, the whole time, obviously, as an audience, we're like, all right, yeah, he's going to turn around and be like, I'm Odysseus. But no, he played it cool. And he threw the chair at him in the back and knocked him down to the ground. And then, that's when Telemachus is like, feast is over. And, there's about to be like a big thing. But it breaks up later in the night. That's when we get the exchange between Odysseus and Penelope, which, very heartwarming, very touching. I loved that scene. We're about to get a murder between Antinous of Telemachus. She's going to straight up murder him. Like, okay, good luck marrying the mom if you kill her son. Pretty sure she's not going to have you as her husband. But it stops. She comes out of her chamber. She's like, I'm going to announce who I'm going to marry tomorrow. So there will be a challenge. Be here tomorrow. No weapons. See you then. This part of the film was you just couldn't look away. It was so good. They set up the challenge, which was cool because they told us about the challenge, or, Penelope was telling Telemachus about the challenge, and she described it. They didn't necessarily show it all that well. They showed all the axes lined up. She's like, oh, and then he would, fire his bow, but they just showed him go like this, but they didn't show what it did. But then her describing the challenge like, hey, first person to be able to string the bow and shoot it through these 12 axes wins the challenge. And sure enough, they made it a big deal about how only Odysseus was ever able to string that bow. And Telemachus had even tried earlier, when he wanted to be ruler, she's all, here, your father was always able to do this. If you can't do this, then you have no business being the ruler of Ithaca. And they try, and Telemachus is like, here you go to Antinous. And there's no need. I know I'm not going to be able to do it. Everyone here's tried. Everyone's failed. You just need to pick the one who's best. You just need to pick. Everyone here's tried. And then Odysseus. I haven't tried. And the disrespect they were showing him, but I was like, oh my God. And I was not prepared for I was not expecting a 10 to 15 minute action sequence of Odysseus turning into Jason Bourne. It was so cool. He's sitting there and you hear the bow creaking. He kind of tries or whatever, and they're all laughing and chuckling. But that's when he flips it and he does the thing he was doing where he puts it up against his foot and cranks it over, strings it, no problem. And immediately, dude, and his freaking guns, man. Dude was jacked for this movie, and then just leans over, shoots the arrow, does it, and everyone's like, what? And then he just goes to town on murdering everyone, which is awesome because, earlier he was like, what do you think Odysseus would do if he saw all these men in his home trying to win his mother's hand in marriage? What do you think he'd do? And dude, him just going full Jason Bourne on everyone was so awesome. And then that little punk B, Robert Pattinson, just hiding. Oh, the spears, grab the shield. He's such a punk. And seeing him get offed that way, unalived by Odysseus, was so satisfying. Before the fight even broke out and before he even shot the bow, when he does, bring the bow back, he strings it. Penelope's like, whatever, the challenge is over. This guy's not able to string it. But her back's turned. This part got me going. It didn't make me want to cry, but it just got me emotional. I was so happy watching it. But she has her back turned and he does string it. I just got the chills thinking about it. Plucks the bow and to where she just turns around oh God, just getting chills in real time here. That was awesome because, they show when he's hunting the deer, and they showed it earlier in the film when he's hunting the pig or the boar, whatever it was. And it's him doing that and the reaction that Penelope had. And everyone in the room too, because they all knew it. Antinous, he was hunting with him as a child. He knew that he did that. He knew the whole story about why he does it. And when he heard that, he's like, oh. So that was awesome. I was like, I have to talk about the plucking of the bow. Just the way he set up those stories. I get it. Christopher Nolan didn't write this. It's not an original screenplay. It's based off of a poem. But still, he did an amazing job telling this story. You could have had just some whatever director do this, and the movie might be total ass. But this was awesome storytelling. I loved it. As a person that's not really a fan of Greek mythology, that era, it's not really my thing. It was really good. I loved this movie. It was great. About halfway through I was thinking, I love Christopher Nolan. Love him. He's definitely in top 5 directors of all time in my book, if not number 1. And I was thinking about halfway through, I was like, I don't know if I would ever rewatch this. But because of the payoffs, all the payoffs, there's so many payoffs in that third act. And it's I think I would rewatch this. Maybe it's not something I watch multiple times every year, but when you do, dude, it was so good. It was so good. I think I pretty much covered everything I wanted to talk about. All the things that made me the most emotional, the things I thought were the coolest and most visually grabbing. Again, the score was great, cinematography, the directing, the cast. The cast did an amazing job. I thought it was awesome. I loved it. I hope people go to see it. I gotta plead for people to go see a new Christopher Nolan movie. But I hope it does really well. I'm sure some Oscars are gonna be won next year. when the race goes on, and I know him and Denis Villeneuve, they're going to be competing for probably Best Director. It's probably going to be between Dune Part 3 and The Odyssey for Best Picture. Ooh, who do you guys think will win Best Picture? Obviously, I've seen The Odyssey. Dune Part 3, that's more my kind of movie. Like, I freaking love Denis' first 2 Dune movies. Like, they're so damn good. It'll be really... I'm not a huge Oscars person. And mainly because I didn't have this channel until last summer. So I might be a little bit more into the Oscars because there's actual movies that I've seen this year so far. And I'm like, ooh, I hope I see that person win some. I hope I see that film do really well. So I'm actually invested now. But I'm curious. I'm curious if one of these 2 films are going to win Best Picture. And if so, which one will it be? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. And again, if you made it even this much further into the video and you haven't already hit that subscribe button, please do it now. It really helps a small channel like mine grow. Hit that little like button like the sign there says. I hope to see you guys in the comments, and I hope you'll join me on my next movie review or trailer reaction or episode recast because, the new Silo comes out in 1 hour and 17 minutes, and that show's awesome. If you watch Silo, you can check out my recap there. I love that show. Apple TV, bringing the good stuff. But sorry, I'm rambling. Awesome movie. Loved it. My rating, oh my God. I didn't do my rating yet. Well, 5 out of 5 stars. It's not complicated. It was amazing. 5 out of 5 stars. I'll see you guys later.